Hello ladies and gentlemen, it's the Historical Gamer here again, and today I'm going to be playing part 4 of my Ultimate General Gettysburg Let's Play. So at this point in time, we're into the 4th battle. We've won several victories. We won a draw on the first day's action on McPherson's Ridge, where we held Seminary and Oak Ridges, but we lost Oak Hill. Confederates then launched an attack on our flank as per history with General Early, and turned our flank, taking Barlow's Knoll. However, they did not roll up the rest of our line. We were able to refuse our line and hold our position. So the Confederate attack failed to reproduce history's result. The Confederates then launched another attack, which did drive us from Seminary Ridge and Oak Hill on the 3rd battle. However, we were able to reform around Cemetery Hill, Seminary Ridge, and Culps Hill, forming the historical Union position at the start of the 2nd day's battle. So, at this point in time, it's July 2nd. We can either defend Cemetery Ridge as per history. We couldn't hold the rebels yesterday. Our men are tired and their spirit is worn, but we still hold the high ground south of town. The rest of the army marched all day to arrive at this on time, and there are portions still en route. We should fortify this position and wait for the rebels' next attack. We have good ground here, and there's no need to take risks should we defend our positions, General. And we get a warning here saying the enemy may make a decision that will force us to fight elsewhere. Or we can attack Benner's Hill. That's a hill up near Culps Hill on the Union right flank. It says, we lost Gettysburg yesterday, but the death of so many brave men was not for nothing. The Army of the Potomac is being deployed on the high ground south of town. There's also an opportunity to expand our deployments to the hills to the west of town before the rebels launch their attack. Shall we advance, General? So we can choose. What do we want to do? Do we want to attack Benner Hill, or do we want to defend Cemetery Ridge? Well, I'm going to assume, let's make the assumption, General Meade is more aggressive than he was historically. Let's go ahead and attack Benner Hill. There are other Let's Plays up there of the defense along Cemetery Ridge per history. I think if we choose to defend, we'll probably fall in line with the Confederate assault on the Union left flank around the Round Tops per history. And honestly, that terrain is so well defensible, I'm not terribly worried about the AI being able to push me out of those positions. I just find it unlikely. Also, the troops there that we'd fight are going to be pretty fresh. If we attack Benner's Hill, I think we'll be facing the Confederate 2nd Corps, which, if you remember yesterday's engagements, we actually inflicted almost 10,000 casualties on the Confederate Army in the first day's engagement, mainly on the 3rd and 2nd Confederate Corps, whereas the 1st Confederate Corps, which is deployed to our left, is fresh, so that's who we'd be fighting. Meanwhile, our forces lost heavily as well, but not as heavily as the Confederates, so I think we're in a better position than historically the Union was to launch a counterattack on the start of the 2nd day's battle. I also don't like the idea of conceding the initiative to the enemy, so let's go ahead and get attacking Benner's Hill. So here we go. The Union counterattacks Benner's Hill at dawn. The Confederates have about 4,300 soldiers and 12 guns. The Union has 12,072 soldiers. We have about 9,000 reinforcements incoming. The Confederates have about 12,000. Says, good decision, General. They'll never see it coming. If we move swiftly and capture Benner's Hill, not only shall we have better protection on our right, but we'll also be able to pressure the rebel side. Your task is to capture all strategic points west of the town. General Slocum with the 12th Corps has been deployed on Culps Hill along with elements of the 1st Corps. There's currently only one rebel division on the 2nd Corps defending Benner's Hill, but you should expect more elements of the 2nd to join the defense. If needed, you will be reinforced by elements of our 2nd and 5th Corps. So the 2nd and 5th are pretty fresh. The 1st is a little bit battered, but the 12th is relatively fresh. Slocum did come on at the end of the last battle. However, he was, I don't believe he was engaged. He just stuck himself on Culps Hill. Confederate 2nd Corps was heavily engaged, although if it's Johnson's division, they may be fresh. They may have one fresh division. The other troops are not fresh. And it looks like we have an initial advantage in pretty much everything. So let's get attacking. There you can see our position here on Culps Hill. The map position seems to have been reversed a bit. Confederates have Wolf's Hill, which is heavily fortified. They've got Benner's Hill as well. So let's get moving, because at this point in time, it looks like we don't have as much of an advantage as we thought. 10,000 versus 14,000. Anyway, I do want to go ahead and attack. So let's get moving. We're going to let's do this. We're going to swing McDougall around using these woods as cover. Oh, don't want to do that. Don't want to do that. Okay, we're going to swing McDougall around, hopefully under cover. He may pop up when he goes over that clear hill, but we're going to swing around the Confederates on Wolf's Hill. Green, who is a very old general indeed, is going to move up Culps Hill directly. Then we're going to, Wolf's Hill directly, and then Lockwood as well is going to launch more of a frontal attack. I don't know what our artillery is going to be able to see from here. So I'm going to bring our artillery up here to support. These woods should provide them cover. Ames, who was badly battered yesterday, is going to be more in support. We've got Stannard, who's got a fresh brigade. We're going to try and advance him up the main portion of Benner Hill. Meanwhile, the rest of our brigades are from the 1st Corps, pretty badly beat up. We've got the Iron Brigade, a very good brigade, but only about 700 men left. We've got Cutler's Brigade, which is, again, pretty battered. And we've got Candy's Brigade, which is very fresh. So we're going to get Candy up here. It looks like the rebels have dispatched Rhodes' Division against us. However, I'm not terribly worried because, again, Rhodes was pretty badly bloodied yesterday. So I believe Hall is in range. It looks like he's probably not exchanging artillery fire. Well, this isn't very historically accurate. Historically, the Union batteries on Culps Hill absolutely murdered the Confederates on Benner Hill. They just demolished them throughout the July 2nd cannonade that General Ewell's brigade, or Ewell's Corps, launched against the Union as a diversion for General... okay, apparently there's... another brigade here, which I didn't see. So we're actually gonna launch an envelopment around here. Oh no! Johnson's division's incoming. The rebels have dispatched Rhodes' division. So now it's 3 divisions against our, I believe we have 2 divisions on the field. We're gonna go ahead and swing you over here. But yeah, historically the Confederates tried to launch a cannonade from Benner Hill on Culps Hill and battered it badly on July 2nd. But the Confederate artillery was absolutely mauled in the engagement and only lost almost half their guns in the engagement. So you can see here the enemy is advancing to meet us, which I do like. I'd rather meet them in an open engagement than anything, especially if they're going to attack the Iron Brigade with a brigade like Smith's. They're almost half our strength, so we've got to take advantage while we have the numbers. You can see the Confederates are bringing in reinforcements up north here. We've got O'Neill coming in. So the goal has to be to deal the enemy a blow before they can bring reinforcements. You see Stonewall's brigade coming in here. They outnumber us, and we've got a significant number of men dispatched off here. So I'm going to bring these guys over and maybe bring some reinforcements in from the west, hopefully outflanking the enemy. We've got a head-on fight going on here. I'm going to bring Lockwood around because it doesn't look like the enemy's holding Wolf's Hill right now. So I think what we're going to do is we're just going to abandon the whole flank thing. We're going to go straight for the enemy while we can. We got to get these troops through these woods quickly and toward the enemy positions. General Reynolds is still alive. I wonder if the game's going to introduce a way to have leaders killed, because he was killed on the first day's battle. It'd be kind of cool if generals could die. And trying to envelop the enemy. It looks like they're going to try and envelop us. Stannard has almost 2,000 men. He's kind of like Pettigrew's brigade in the sense that he's got a lot of men. Some of our weaker brigades are forming the center of our line here. Very strong brigade and Stonewall's brigade coming down here. It's called Stonewall's brigade because it was the brigade that General Stonewall Jackson led at the Battle of First Manassas, or First Bull Run, depending on your opinion there. And he successfully defended against several Union attacks in that battle. And the brigade was thereafter given the name of Stonewall because it was said by General B, who was at the battle, watching General Jackson's men hold their position, "Look, men, there stands Jackson like a stone wall. Let us be determined to die here," or something along those lines. And ever since, he was known as Stonewall Jackson, and the brigade he commanded as Stonewall's Brigade, even when he became a commander of a larger unit. So here you can see, it looks like we've pretty much driven back several Confederate regiments pretty handily, driven them back in style, narrowing the gap in terms of manpower. Ruger's kind of exposed. We're going to bring Cutler up here, and our left flank is a little bit exposed here, so actually I'm going to pull Ruger back as the enemy invariably threatens our other flank. But we've got troops coming down here. We've taken Wolf's Hill, so that's a success for us, and we're going to see if we can drive the Confederates from the field. They've got considerably more guns than we do on the field, but we've got more. No, we don't have more of anything, but we've got more spirit. Yeah. So hopefully Ruger can kind of hold the flank in. Cutler's brigade's weak. Candy is very strong brigade, advancing here over the middle. Confederate artillery is pounding us. Stonewall's getting shredded as his boys retreat. You can see there, they've already lost 300 men, so that's good news. Stewart is going to be faced here by Lockwood, which has a strong brigade. Standard's going to advance up the middle. Ames, you're going to kind of secure his flank. And this artillery hopefully will help against Stuart, because holy crap, is that a giant brigade? 2,000 men. Looks like the numbers just in time. Hayes' division is marching to join us. All right, so we've got more troops incoming. That's good. We'll go over here. You've got a good brigade. It seems like I deployed most of my weak troops toward the main attack. That's not good. Let's see, Ruger, what corps are you in? First Corps? Where are you, Reynolds? Go help him. So I don't know if we'll take Benner Hill here. We've got a division of reinforcements coming in somewhere. Green, get your guys up. So our right flank has crushed the enemy. Our left flank looks like they're in deep crap. But Standard, come on, run up there. Get up there. Enemy's going to be firing artillery into our rear. We're going to try and threaten Benner Hill. I don't imagine we'll take it. We do outnumber the enemy now by 4,000 men. I don't know where these reinforcements are, though. I don't see anyone on the field. Not yet, anyway. But they say they're there somewhere. Candy's facing Jones here. We got some artillery. If Jones advances, he's going to put his flank right exposed to our artillery, and also got a big brigade in front of him, so I'd love to fire some canister into the side of his unit. These guys are all pretty clustered up. Go ahead and halt. Come on, artillery, fire some canister in there. Rugers has got to hold his position. He's got to. He's got the entire Confederate army against him. No. All right, so we've pushed Stuart back, so that means we can advance Green. Standard has pretty poor morale. But we got to get him in position. Candy's, they're all, how did Jones drive all these guys back? We've got to hold the line here. We've got to. There's got to be more Union troops. Where are they? Oh, they're there. All right, so Cutler's routed from the field probably. He's only got like 500 men more. But we've got a couple of brigades coming in down here. Looks like Smith's. Ruger's still holding his ground, impressively. Jones is being driven back, so we're slowly making progress. A Green, I don't know what I'm doing with you. Lockwood. Ames. So again, the strong part of my line looks like it's on my right. My weak part is on my left. So I've got to get some reinforcements in there. Ruger's finally driven back. Hopefully he can recover a bit. And the enemy is all bunched up, but hey, so are we. Candy, what's your... Are you routed from... Can you not select a retreating unit? Where'd Cutler go? I guess Cutler's guys decided there's no fight in here for them. Meanwhile, I've got 3 more brigades coming up. Why are you all retreating, you guys? We were doing so well. So we took Wolf Hill. I don't know if we'll hold it. Battle's about half over, it looks like. But again, we seized the initiative here in this battle. So all things told about victory points, probably about even after casualties. Probably about a draw. So get you in there. Get some more morale. This fresh division hopefully will make a difference. McDougal's fresh. Maybe I should send him up the gut. So is Lockwood, really. So almost our entire right's pretty fresh. Standard isn't. But Green is okay. Lockwood is okay. I wonder what the effect of having artillery fire into your rear is, though. That could be pretty detrimental, I would imagine. Artillery's buying time for these guys to get up here from this other division. Ames is going to swing around and help defend. 600 men of the Iron Brigade are against the entire Confederate army. And yeah, so the rebels are slowly pressing us back. The main thing is we've got to hold Culps Hill at all costs. We lose Culps Hill, we lose our right anchor. We've at least extended out to Wolf Hill. I think that's a nice extension of the line, too, if we had a bigger map. It'd be nice if there was like a big strategic map that you could see of the entire battle of Gettysburg. That'd be kind of cool. See there them firing canister out there toward the enemy. Hopefully these guns can hold the enemy back. Iron Brigade, hold. Kane. Names. I realize I'm just saying random names. I think Slocum was the oldest corps commander in the Union Army. He's no Blucher. He's no 70-year-old on horseback leading charges against Napoleon. But he's a pretty impressive guy, you know. McDougal, our flank is caving in. We'll bring you over here. Green, you're still fresh. You're going up the gut. Let's get you up there and run it. Actually, no. Why don't you attack Stonewall Brigade? Lockwood, your flank is exposed. What are you doing back here? Get up there. Inspire your men. Alright, Carroll, you're coming forward. Smith over here. Willard over here. So we got 3 more brigades, which hopefully should be enough to salvage this, so we'll at least take Wolf Hill. Hopefully we hold that. Battle's a little bit more than half over. This would be an interesting proposition if the Union launched a counterattack. I think it'd be a little bit aggressive for them. I don't think, you know, Meade had just taken command of the army just before this battle, literally a couple of, what, maybe like a couple of weeks tops in front of the battle. So I think it'd be probably more aggressive than would be possible for a commander in his shoes to be, but it still would be, it's an interesting proposition, like I said. Carroll, you're gonna go fight these guys. Smith, I'm gonna be aggressive. Again, I'm trying to be pretty aggressive with these guys. As long as we're not at risk losing Culps Hill, I don't see the negative. We can take casualties much more easily than the Confederates can, that's for sure. Green's brigade historically led a pretty strong defense against a night attack on July 2nd that the Confederates made on Culps Hill. Confederates really had very little chance against the Union troops when they attacked Culps Hill on July 2nd. The Union had actually cut down logs overnight and basically had built a fort out of the hill. It was incredibly forested. This is Culps Hill right here, as you can see. And while the Confederates nearly got around the Union flank, it wasn't something that was really ever a near-run thing. It was heavy casualties, heavy casualties. The Union on the flank were actually pretty heavily outnumbered, too, by the Confederate attackers. But they really had no chance. I'm using kind of the tactics that some people have already mentioned here about clicking on the unit you want to attack rather than have your troops march in. I do wonder how much more you lose in casualties at closer ranges, though. That would be, it's not something I've paid a whole lot of attention to, but I think it's interesting. We are slowly progressing up Benner Hill, so we've got a chance. The Iron Brigade is I don't know how, all the way up here losing incredible numbers of men, and yet they're still fighting off the center of the Confederate army. They are our Stonewall Brigade. They are standing there. They're taking it. But Confederates also are kind of turning our flank, too. We are starting to take the advantage in terms of manpower, though, so that's a good thing. Green is pushed back. We don't want to lose Wolf Hill, but I'm not too worried. If you can see here, the enemy had outnumbered us by a couple thousand. Now, we did get some reinforcements, but we've got a healthy advantage in terms of numbers now over the Confederates, and they're taking heavy losses here. I think we had the advantage of being in some really good terrain for part of this fight. All right, fire a volley on these guys, point blank. There you go. Stonewall Brigade, run away. The runaway brigade as they're down under 800 men. Man, they're getting torn apart. But now worse than the Iron Brigade. The Iron Brigade, historically, as I mentioned in one of my previous videos, they lost about 60%. They came into the battle, I think, with about 1,400 men. 60% of that would be, what, like 800 men? My math is probably bad there. No, about 900 men, so they would have had about 500 left, roughly. These are really quick mathematical figures I'm pulling out of my nothing. And here in this battle, they're right around there. It's still July 2nd, though. It's early, too. It's the morning of July 2nd that we're launching this counterattack, so there's lots of opportunity here. We might get a chance to rout the Confederates the way things are going, though, if we can take Benner Hill, if we can get up here and take it. Because we still are not. The Confederates still hold the hill, despite taking Wolf Hill. It'll probably be about a draw, maybe a minor victory for us. Iron Brigade's finally retreating there. You can see the enemy has marched forward. I'm letting these guys rest a bit, hoping that they get their morale up. When these guys get up around 50 or upper 40s, I'm sending them into the fight. There is no friendly fire, so you see these artillery pieces firing canister fire through some of the gaps in there. They don't have to worry about hitting their own men. At least to my own knowledge and what I've seen, there is no friendly fire. Canister doesn't seem effective enough to me. Maybe that's because these troops are all on the way, but canister was the most deadly force of of fire against units in the Civil War. It was the most effective way to break up an attack is launch canister. I've mentioned it a few times, but it's basically firing a shotgun into a packed, dense group of men in linear formations. It's not something to be trifled with, and it doesn't seem like the game gives artillery canister too much. It seems like artillery fire has a big impact in terms of morale hits, maybe not in casualties, but in the way that morale is handled. But it doesn't seem like canister kills or wounds that many men, and that seems a little bit unrealistic to me, because I could be wrong on this, but I believe canister was the biggest killer on the battlefield. And if it wasn't, it was definitely the biggest killer for artillery on the battlefield, which maybe the game represents, but I just get the feeling that maybe canister fire is a little bit underrepresented here in this game. So you can see here, it's kind of everyone retreating, everyone attacking, everyone retreating. It's a massive battle of attrition at this point. Again, I do believe that favors me heavily. The Union wasn't. A lot of people talk about how much the Union outnumbered the Confederacy in most battles, and that was true in general. It wasn't really true at the Battle of Gettysburg. Yeah, they outnumbered them. I think the Union had about 90,000 men, but the Confederates, they had 75,000 men of their own. It was the second largest army that Lee ever fielded. The largest army he ever fielded was during the Peninsula Campaign in 1862, before the Confederacy had really been bled dry. And Lee launched a series of attacks during the battle for Richmond on the tail end of the Peninsula Campaign. He launched a series of attacks over 7 days in which he attacked the Union Army every single day. The Confederates lost almost 20,000 men, nearly a quarter of their entire army. It was a series of disastrous attacks, and yet General McClellan pulled the army back and retreated. Now, that's not to say the Union Army weren't in a difficult spot. They had half their army cut off on the other side of a river that was swollen and flooded. So, in some sense, you could certainly argue that the Union withdrawal made some strategic sense, especially after their positions were overrun at the Battle of Gaines' Mill. But you would have thought after some of those defensive attacks were successful, or defenses were successful for the Union, that they would have maybe kind of regrouped and maybe not withdrawn all the way back to the river, basically acting like they were lucky to get out of there with their lives, because that's essentially what happened. But General Lee knew his man. He knew his man what didn't have the will to lose that many men, and Lee did. A lot of people criticized General Grant for being a butcher during the Overland Campaign and his just relentless attack. That's kind of what happened in the 7 days. You know, as much credit as General Lee gets, he was very stubborn at times, and he sensed an opportunity, and yet the tactics and the technology of the time didn't allow him really to exploit it, as well as some of his subordinates didn't perform all that well. It was an interesting battle where Lee was really kind of getting to know his commanders, getting to know who he could trust. After the battle, or after the series of battles, he made General Longstreet his second in command. He made second highest ranking officer, depending on how you want to look at that. He made General Jackson his third most highest ranking officer. Now, Jackson didn't perform very well during those 7 battles that I mentioned. He was sluggish, but there's also substantial evidence that Jackson may have been physically exhausted and physically unable to do much of anything in terms of, he was on the verge of breaking down because he literally came straight from the Valley Campaign to the engagements of the 7 days. So he had been in the saddle so much, he may have just physically been unable to carry on. That's certainly a possibility. See here, the Stonewall Brigade is retreating. We're starting to lose our grip on Benner Hill. It's kind of starting to turn light blue, which means you don't necessarily control it. The battle is in flux. This is a very closely fought engagement. I'm sorry, I think my audio cut out there for a second, but this is a very closely fought engagement, as one can tell. But the enemy is just bleeding dry, just bone dry in terms of manpower. They started off, I think they have engaged maybe 15, 16, 17, 18,000 men. Down to 9,000 men. They're just being bloodied away, and that's kind of the negative of the way that the Confederates are set up in this game. You can see now our control is getting stronger as this turns more and more blue, and the Confederates are starting to retreat. They might be in the verge of a rout, and if we take Benner Hill, the entire complexion of this battle changes, and the Confederacy is no longer in a position of attack all of July 2nd. It now becomes something that's on us to a certain degree. You know, we, the Union, can launch our own attacks against the Confederates and perhaps destroy the Army of Northern Virginia and end the Civil War here. But as I was saying, General Jackson performed poorly at the 7 Days campaign. Again, may have been physical exhaustion, but for whatever the reason, General Lee made General Longstreet the second highest ranking officer in the Army of Northern Virginia when he had him promoted, 1 day before General Jackson, intentionally, no doubt. Longstreet maybe was the saner choice for a second in command. Jackson was very, very aggressive, but for an army of that size, you know, it's easy to be aggressive with an army of 10, 15,000 men. If you lose it, you don't lose the war. If you lose the Army of Northern Virginia, you lose the war. For the Confederacy, anyway, in the East. And maybe he saw a bit of General Hood. Jackson was certainly more creative, more energetic, and a better commander than Hood, but Hood, like Jackson, was a very, very aggressive commander who General Lee never promoted above division command, perhaps because there wasn't the option, although I would say before Gettysburg, after Jackson had been killed, there was certainly the ability to reorganize. He gave General Hill a corps. He didn't give General Hood a corps. General Hood, the famous Texan with his Texas division, and he was one of the best, strongest attacking, most aggressive Confederate commanders in the Army, and in some ways you could say similar to Jackson, certainly without his ability all the way. But when he eventually got command of the Army of Tennessee, Hood went crazy, not literally, but kind of from a military standpoint, went a little bit crazy, made a bunch of really rash attacks, and nearly destroyed the Army. Actually, no, he did destroy the Army. So I don't know if General Lee was kind of hesitant to give someone like that full command of the Army. He did give General Hill, who also had a reputation of being an incredibly aggressive commander as well. He gave General Hill a corps, so maybe I'm reading too much into it. But I think it's fair to say that by not giving General Jackson the number 2 slot, at the very least, he initiated his trust in General Longstreet more, for whatever that's worth. Again, maybe because of the Peninsula Campaign, which may not have been fair. But he also blackballed several generals as well. There were several division commanders who outranked Longstreet or Jackson, who had been key components in the Confederate Army, who were basically shipped off to the west. They were shipped off to Texas. Who was it? Was it Buckner? One of them ended up getting shipped off to Texas and was the technical in command during the Red River campaign, but you know, was not by any means in charge of battlefield tactics. And a couple of guys were sent to the west. Trying to remember. I wish I could remember the names right now, but I can't, of course, right now when I'm in the middle of a video. I can't remember the names. But there were 3 or 4 division commanders who Lee intentionally basically got rid of. He decided their performances, their talents were not up to par. And after the Peninsula Campaign, General Lee really had crafted the Army of Northern Virginia that he wanted. He had built the Army, he had got his officers in command the way he wanted, and it almost culminates in the perfect campaign at the Battle of Second Manassas, in which General Jackson holds off the Union Army just long enough for General Longstreet to arrive, and, you know, essentially, more troops are incoming? And essentially, I don't even remember what I was saying. Apparently, General Stuart's cavalry is on the way. I'm guessing that's because we're winning so badly, so now we have to deal with Stuart's mighty horsemen. And also, it says, hurrah, General Aries comes with his strong, sir? That might be a typo. Strong what? And where is he? Where are you, General Aries? Whatever, the battle ended. So anyway, that's I guess my discussion ends there, in that after the Peninsula Campaign, the Confederate Army was organized perfectly the way that General Lee wanted, and that campaign really was a masterpiece in many ways. With that being said, the Peninsula Campaign, with all the positives Lee could get out of it by getting rid of the guys he didn't like, was also a bloodbath, and the Confederate Army never again fielded a force as large as they had at the Peninsula Campaign. I think at one point they had 90,000 men under arms, which is about what the Union had at Gettysburg. The Union had about 90,000, Confederates had about 75,000, and Lee got close to that again during the Wilderness, the start of 1864. But by that point, the South's ability to, provide quality reinforcements was kind of gone. So anyway, as you can see here, we won a major victory here in our fourth battle. We took Benner's Hill, we held Culps Hill, and we took Wolf's Hill. So we took both of the objectives. We held the current objective. The Confederacy has nothing left. And we also inflicted substantially more casualties on the enemy. Not as much as I thought, but the enemy lost about 4,600 soldiers. We lost about 1,900. I think that's going to change the tenor of the battle. We'll see. This was a morning engagement, started at 7 a.m., went till 10 a.m. So we've got a lot of time to continue attacking if we want to seize the initiative. So, now what? Sir, our forces are in place around the cemetery, but word is the rebels are bringing in reinforcements from the north to threaten our flank. We must act before our flank collapses. Most of the Army of the Potomac is here, and we won't be receiving reinforcements. The cemetery sector is a strong defensive area. If we lose it, we risk being driven off the field and losing the battle. We cannot afford to lose more ground, but the Confederates will be pressuring us heavily. God be with you, General. So here you can see we've got about 39,000 soldiers on the next battle. Confederacy is about 18,000 soldiers with 11,000 reinforcements, but I don't want to tease you. I'm sorry. That's going to be the end of this battle, or end of this video. We will pick up the fifth part of, is it the fifth or the fourth? Fifth part of our series in the next video. Looks like it's going to be a doozy. We've got over almost 40,000 soldiers all going to be on the map at once. So that's going to be an impressive engagement that you're going to want to tune in for. If you have enjoyed this, please drop me a like, subscription, blah, 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 all the usual stuff. I appreciate you tuning in. If you've got questions or concerns, please feel free to drop it in the comments. You can send me a tweet at historicalgamer, or you can send me an email at historicalgamer@gmail.com. Until next time, however, this is the Historical Gamer saying thank you for watching, and I'm out.